Gabe from Gabe Spotless Window Cleaning. We want to bring you another episode of the ITF Flowcast. This week we have a really interesting interview with Mr. John Lee. He's going to be interviewed by our very own Joel Lamb, and we look forward to learning a lot from him. He's been a long-time window cleaner, has a lot of experience, and no doubt you're going to enjoy it. But before we get into the interview, we just wanted to remind you that tomorrow is the end of the auction for Tommy. And so if you haven't had a chance yet to make a bid, you want to do it today or tomorrow at the latest, because you don't want to miss out on this auction. There's some great prizes. We appreciate all the vendors and everyone who's made donations for it. So we just want to make sure you remembered, get in there, put some bids in, get some cool equipment, and donate for a good cause. So we look forward to seeing the results of that fundraiser. But now we're going to give your attention to Joel as he interviews Mr. John Lee.
John Lee, he's a veteran window cleaner. He has a business called John Lee Window Cleaning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, John?
Yeah, let's see. John Lee Window Cleaning actually started, the first one started in 1980. Let's see. Actually, it was 86. The first one on the Cape Cod in Massachusetts. I happened to be doing volunteer work and was spending a year in that area, and that's where it first started, that company. Before that, I had done window cleaning as a sort of an apprentice from 82 to 85, I think, as an apprentice, and worked for, of course, he's a customer of mine now, a long time customer and friend, Rick Ely, who's in Henrico, Virginia. He has a company there.
Wow. So you have over 30 years of experience?
Yeah, sure have. Yeah, it's changed so much.
Yeah.
I've seen so many different changes. But John Lee Window Cleaning started in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Well, I'm sorry, no. Started in where I'm at now in East Tennessee in 92. So after the time I spent in Massachusetts, I ended up back in South Carolina, which is where I'm from originally. Ended back up on the coast of South Carolina. All of you, I know everybody knows the Grand Strand, and was there for about 4 years, I think. Yeah, 85 to 92, working as a contractor for a company that was already there in Myrtle Beach. That company still buys from me. As a matter of fact, one of my customers ended up buying that company and is still running it now. It's a very successful company, the Grand Strand. It's so I ended up here and started John Lee Window Cleaning here in East Tennessee in 92.
So what was the type of window cleaning that you started off doing in Massachusetts? Was it mainly residential, or was it?
No, it was interesting. If you're familiar with that area and whatever, where I was at was right at just across the bridge from the Cape. And there's a little town there. It's very, very old. So the houses were like super old. They had big old windows with the weights, and they had storm windows in them. I hated storm windows. That's all I'd ever done, for the first years, 5-6 years. And so I started up just a route because I was doing volunteers. I was only working maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, and just did a route, but I had to drive quite a bit because that area is densely, it's not your typical strip shopping center type place. Most of the business were the first floor of a triple decker house. So they only had, like, my biggest account was like 20.
It was how big?
So I would have to do a lot of $25 was my biggest account.
Oh, wow.
$25. And remember, this was whatever, the 25, 30 years ago, which I would have to do a lot of at a time. I'd do 35, like it was funny because when I was apprenticing, we used to set goals every day to try to break our record as how many accounts we could do in a day. I think the record at that time was 36. I was always trying to push to see if I could, get that many done in a day.
So,
but it was everything from mom and pa's to, there was a few national chains, but not many, but mostly mom and pa's, small businesses.
How has the pricing changed over 30 years? So $25 account back then, how many window panes were you actually cleaning?
It was back then, it was $1 a pane. I mean, that's the way I had learned and been trained, was $1 a pane. And of course, you would upcharge on some stuff, and if they had a lot of stuff on the inside, a lot of them we were like doing the outside every couple of weeks, and then maybe every 2 months do the inside, and you have to take more stuff, signs down, all that. But surprisingly, I know everybody here, I won't mention the name, but has a company in their area in route work that's still charging not much more than that. So it hasn't really gone up comparison to what the the economy has, the shrinkage. It just hasn't, which is the reason why my company now, we do very little route work. We're mostly, I'd say we're 75 to 80% residential, and we do mid-rise.
Mid-rise, that's something that I've talked about a little bit, is that's what we like to do, is like 1 to 5 stories, and we're really comfortable.
Yeah, you're set up perfect for it, which is why I ended up setting up with the van mount system for those jobs. But it's a little different ball game than residential and route work. But I've learned a lot of stuff on how to get into that. Of course, now it's affected big time with COVID-19. We haven't done any of our, we have most of your class is called Class A commercial. So these are properties that actually pay for the window cleaning. A lot of the Class B and C real estate, it's up to the tenants to pay for it, which means it never gets done. So, but on Class A properties, that includes the landscaping, all the exterior window cleanings once, twice a year.
So what would be an example of a Class A property? Like what type
Easiest way to determine is if you drive by an office building and it has really good curb appeal. If you understand what I'm saying by curb appeal, it just looks really groomed. That's going to be a Class A property.
So you have a better odds at picking up a Class A account.
Absolutely, because when they in commercial real estate, they class them. Your lower classes don't offer window cleaning. They just. But the point I was making, though, is even the Class A's this year completely skipped. And another thing that will probably affect us if you're doing Class A properties is, because I went to one of their meetings, what you do is you join with their groups, like their Facebook groups, or the commercial realtors have their own groups. And so I join and contribute to it. So I went to one of their meetings, and they're losing tenants now because so many people are working at home. So there's no need for them to continue to, pay, have all this stuff done, or continue. They're not, renting as much Class A properties.
How's your business kept afloat or dealt with the pandemic crisis this year? I know you said you did a lot of residential, but you also have some low-rise, multi-story commercial buildings that you do. What was your strategy going into the pandemic?
It was interesting because, like everybody, I think March, when when things really hit, and I think people like really overreacted and everything shut down. We were slow there for probably 3 weeks, pretty much down to a grinding stop. But then our residential, specifically our gutter cleaning, went bonkers. So we were just getting tons of requests for gutter cleaning. We were doing exterior window cleaning that time. And it just amazing. I mean, I couldn't keep up with the gutter cleaning jobs.
Wow.
In April. And normally we don't do that many gutters cleaning jobs, but that seemed to be what was coming in. So it sort of geared up the workers to, with that mindset. We did up our prices a good bit because supply and demand. It was the demand there and we could supply it. So we raised our prices quite a bit and people were still paying it.
I know that you're a big advocator of water-fed pole, and I feel like Skyvac and different gutter cleaning systems like that are sort of the water-fed pole of the gutter cleaning industry.
Yeah.
Have y'all invested in gutter cleaning systems like that?
Have not. I've sold a bunch of them. I've talked to a lot of people that are using them successfully, others not successfully. It's sort of mixed. I know the people that are using them successfully are using them where ladder access is not available. You really have no other alternative. And I actually did some videos. I went to a customer who bought 2 of them and went and spent some time with him, a couple of days using them, made some videos. And we learned a lot, as far as troubleshooting and stuff. But it's a great tool, like any other tool. But we still, with the gutters that we do on houses, we still just do everything with standoff ladders.
Sure. What are some tips, since I'm sure you got a whole bunch of experience this year or last year with gutter cleaning? What are some tips for setting up your ladder with gutter cleaning? Because I know a big thing is you don't want to damage the gutter when you set up.
Right.
So do you set up underneath the gutter or over the top? What's your preferred method?
We use standoffs on the roof, so we don't touch the gutter. We go up above the roof about 4 feet, and then you go up, and then you have the gutter spoon with a extension pole. You do as far as you can to the right, as far as you can to the left, and then move the ladder.
Yeah.
So you try to do as few ladder sets as possible. And
do you collect your debris as well?
Yeah, we attach a bucket with a ring to the ladder rung and put everything in there in a trash bag and then take it with us.
I see a lot of people doing it different ways. A lot of people walk roofs, which, I've done that before too. If I'm walking a roof, it's because, I probably shouldn't be. And that's what makes me want to get into a gutter vac system.
Exactly.
But as far as collecting debris goes, I know a lot of people just get a leaf blower and just blast it out of the gutters, which I'm not totally crazy about that method.
Yeah, that works if you can walk the roof. That's definitely faster. Even pressure washing, knocking out pressure washer works. If you're safe, walking the roof. I prefer that like I said, my history is I don't do ladders.
Right.
I got rid of ladders like 15 years after starting John Lee Window Cleaning. We just pretty much got rid of ladders because I took some falls. I saw how that time I was a one-man show with a helper. I realized how I was just one accident away from being out of business. I have 5 kids that, it would have just devastated. So in order to not use ladders, I got rid of them. And that's how I figured out how to do everything with, water-fed poles and attachments inside and out.
So as far as getting rid of ladders, for the window cleaning specifically, you don't use ladders anymore in your company?
No. Mm-mm.
What about, so there's another person, he got a little bit of notoriety at the last IWCA convention. He was
Yeah.
on a panel and he said that he doesn't use ladders even inside houses anymore. And
Yeah.
he kind of stole the show. So
Yeah.
when you were doing interiors on a residential,
Yeah.
how do you get around having to use a ladder?
Yeah, it was interesting because when I was first decided to do this, at that time, basically what I had was Zorbo makes a aluminum pole that I think is 40 feet. It's the biggest, traditional window cleaning pole. So I had one of those. It comes in 6-foot sections, sort of like a stack ladder, but it's, you just put the sections together. So at that time I knew enough about microfiber and how it worked that I had modified the end of the pole where I could reach up. I was using it also on the outside as a water fed pole because that time all I had was the only poles that were available that I had was the Tucker aluminum pole. And so this was the aluminum pole that was lightweight, so I could take it inside because it was sectional. And then I had microfiber pads that I'd had a seamstress sew that would fit on a swivel pad holder. And I was trying a lot of different stuff,
Cool.
trial and error, but I was able to do it successfully, that way. There were some cases where I had, there was another window cleaner that if I got in trouble, I could always pay him to come and do something if it was real tricky. For example, like if you had grids in the window and it was, too high up.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you would buff the glass with a microfiber?
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying different things. Like I was trying, I had the surgical towels made into bonnets. I had Unger at that time had the best, and I think still do have the best microfiber on the market. So I had several of those made into the bonnets that would slip over the doodle pad.
Mm-hmm.
That time, that's all there was. The Unger, you didn't have the aluminum pad holders, the Cleanos, and any of that. And I was trying a mixture of distilled water with plant-based soap mixture, vinegar, pure water, using this product, which is still used. Still love this stuff, and it works great. Basically, this is like alcohol and water, but under an aerosol, spray. And that's how we were doing it. Also was using magic erasers that I would rubber band to the doodle pad.
I've actually used magic erasers on new construction cleanups.
Yes.
With water fed poles.
Yeah.
And that's what I did is I had some of my wife's hair ties.
Yes.
And I couldn't use a razor blade on this glass.
Right.
And I couldn't get a lift or a ladder because it was just one of those curtain walls of glass.
Yeah.
And the contractors had left silicone all over it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what am I going to do? And so that's
Yeah.
what I did. And actually, I just did it again it was an 8-story hospital tower. I had a modular extensions for my gardener pole, and I just hair banded this magic eraser on, and I went up there and I had someone on the inside, and I just scrubbed from below. And I tell you what, man, it's a good trick to have.
It is, and because before magic erasers, which a magic eraser is like pumice, it's the material pumice, and they glue it, and so that's why the more you use it, the more it dissolves. We used to use steel wool with talcum powder, and talcum powder would absorb the oils in it, so it wouldn't just scoot all over the window, and then you have more of a mess. So when they came out with magic eraser, man, it just changed the game with silicone. So yeah, I would use it for, a lot of times you could use it dry after you had polish the glass.
Yep.
With the microfiber, you'd have to go back and touch up. So I was just trying anything that would work, and was successful. Really, I was able to do it successfully.
It sounds like the product that you kind of invented on your own is a product that eventually came to the market, which is the indoor water, not water fed, but indoor pure water cleaning systems.
Yeah, I don't think I can really claim it. At that time in the UK, they were already attempting indoor water fed polling, and they had something called the Firefly, which is basically, it's a microfiber pad, and you wear a little belt with a bottle with a pump, and hose goes up to the top of the pole, and it sprays a mist over the top, and then you buff it out with the microfiber pad. So I think that was already on the market. There were even some other companies, some of the, like, I think Ionics or some of the bigger companies in the UK were doing a vacuum system where you would water fed pole, but it would suck the water up underneath it on the inside.
And what year was this?
That's got to be early 90s, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe later than, maybe later 90s, somewhere in the 90s. I know that it was, because of course, that equipment was too expensive.
Right.
You know, there was only one manufacturer or rep in the US, and he didn't have any. They were selling the machine you've got now, but he didn't have any of this stuff. This is all new. So I was figuring it out. And then soon after that, Unger came out with the Speed Clean kit, which they were already in contact with me or whatever, when it was in the R&D part. So we're trying to figure out what was the best solution. And that's gone like around the world. It's come back to what we should have started with. It was just pure water,
Right.
No chemicals.
So no additives.
Yeah, no additives, because
so here's a question.
other than
something I wanted
like,
to ask you about on this interview is
yeah,
the pure water mixtures and pure water indoor pure water cleaning kits.
yes,
A lot of them are mixtures of pure water and alcohol. Is that correct?
yeah,
It's
right.
basically like spray away almost.
Yeah, exactly. In Unger, when they first came out with the Speed Clean kit, it was just a spray bottle on a belt. That's what you use. You spray the pad.
Right.
It's still a great system. It's a great system. I still use it. We still use it
Really?
a lot. Yeah. And at that time, that's when they were trying to figure out what solution, worked best. And they sent me several different ones to try. And we're still getting the problem with the hazing, with it still it looks great until low, especially this time of year, the sun's low in the sky and the sun hits it, you see those haze. So when they came out with the Stingray, later on, they developed the Stingray, which basically allowed you to spray, instead of having to bring the pad down and spray the pad, you could spray the pad through the pole.
Right. And it had the triangular shape, so it could fit in
Yeah,
odd places better.
the triangle shape allowed you to get any shape window. You could get in the corners on any shape window, which is good. But they went with 3M product, 3M window cleaner. And that's what they're still, Unger's patented. I don't know what they've got, some kind of, but it's a 3M product. But they also recognized that a lot of people were just using pure water and alcohol. So they came out with the refillable bottle for the Stingray. So, and that seems to be more popular now. That way people can use their own mixtures. And listen, window cleaners, they're the most resourceful, come up with, figuring out how to do things. There's so many different mixtures out there, so many different people the ones that are having success with it have figured out how to make it work with the mixtures so they don't get so they're getting success with it.
So I ended up buying the Unger Speed Clean kit about
Yes.
3 years ago,
Yeah.
and I plan to use it at a large commercial account that I would be doing repeat business with. And
Yes.
it was an account where there was indoor lift usage, and
Yes.
I didn't want to leave water on the frames,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And so I thought this is going to be great, and I used it. It was difficult to get used to. The second time around, I got up on the lift and we got up there, and the windows that we were able to access by hand compared to the windows that we did with the Speed Clean, there was
Yes.
this terrible haze on them. It was
Yes.
awful. And
Yeah.
and because of how difficult it was to try and figure out, I just
Gotcha.
got rid of it and started doing everything traditionally.
Yeah.
And just did my best to not leave water on the frames.
Right.
Got another job coming up, similar situation, in a 30-foot lift. It's a 50-foot tall wall of glass.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna have to do some pull work out of the lift, and I would really like to use the IPC Cleano that I've invested in, which I got that for doing something different. But I am worried. Let's see here. I'm not sure where. There we go. My picture just switched around. But I'm worried about the same thing. I'm worried about getting there, doing the work with the Cleano, which I think will be better because it sprays up in front of the pad. But I'm still worried about that haze. What can I do to avoid that?
Okay, so this is what I have learned the most about this, and I think it'll help people understand how this works is microfiber is the way microfiber works is it takes the dirt on the surface and transfers it from the top of the fiber down to the bottom. So the tips are always clean. So the microfiber that's touching the glass is always going to be clean. Once it fills up, say once those fibers fill up, they're going to start releasing the dirt back onto the surface. And so that's why you wash them and it releases all the dirt and you can reuse them. If you fill up this fiber with water, which is what most people do, they over wet it. So the fiber's full of water, so it really can't hold any dirt. See? Mm-hmm. So you want to try to keep the microfiber as dry as possible for it to do the best cleaning. Okay. So this is a very long microfiber, so it'll hold a lot of dirt. So this is the pad that you should start out with whenever you're cleaning the windows. Okay. And as you well know, we're talking about commercial windows. A lot of times interior doesn't get done very often, especially high up. Mainly what you're dealing with there is dust and environmental pollutions, either from the heating and air or from whatever they're making there. If it's an office, there's just tons of toxins in the air. That all settles on their windows. So it's best to use this one first as dry and get as much as you can get off of it. Then if you do use, and we do find this one successful too, to wet, you just want to do a tiny amount of moisture on it. Basically, the moisture is there to prevent the friction on the glass, the surface. So if you're getting a lot of friction, then you want to put a slight mist on it.
Okay.
Something as little, this would probably be more than enough.
Gonna give us an example?
On one of these. So I'll try to give an example. Can you see it okay?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I would just do that would probably be enough.
Okay.
On this, yeah. And then you would have to reapply after it, dried up, but just a slight amount. And this is a shorter microfiber. It's very tight. You can see it's a very tight weave, sort of like surgical towel. It's a very tight weave. So this one works great for clean windows. Of course, we all love clean windows.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, this one can be used, let's say, for example, that job you got coming up is after you go over it with this, if it's still not clean, you go back over it with this. And the same with this, you just put a slight mist. This one tends to have more friction, way more friction on the glass than this one. So you might have to put a little more moisture on it. I think Unger's done a really good video that they put out on how much moisture you should have on the pad and what it looks like on their website. But
so go ahead.
So what I was going to say is, if you notice hazing, then this is a great one to use, even dry, to clean up the hazing.
Okay.
And a lot of times the hazing is either caused by the pad's too wet, or you really didn't get all the dirt off. So you're going to have to go over it again. And with this one, like I had a company that bought they were doing the inside of them all skylights at night. Okay. So they wanted to be able to go up there and just reach with the pole and do all of them. It's way quicker than going up and hand doing them. If you've ever done angular glass, all that stuff just drips right on you.
Yeah.
Drips down on you. It drips on who knows what under you. That's one of the biggest reasons I don't allow my employees with mop squeegees, because I personally ruined a lot of stuff. I had to paint a lot of stuff. It's just really hard. Even if you're really good, it's really hard to not drip with mop and squeegee. And if the surface is really dirty, that stuff's black, coming off. And if it gets some, especially in buildings where they have a lot of the air quality, it just leaves a lot of stuff that comes off.
I noticed buildings that are heated with natural gas,
yeah,
it always runs off black. It's
black.
Horrible.
Yes.
So
electric heat's probably a lot cleaner. Kerosene's the worst. I've done several houses they heated with kerosene. That's a nightmare.
that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. And wood stoves, wood, it's really bad.
Yeah, I'm always terrified when I'm doing skylights inside people's houses that I'm going to drip down on their walls, because I've done it before. Drip down on their walls, it's going to leave a black streak. What I usually do now is I'll have two poles, and on one of them I'll have a dry mop with a towel draped over it, and I'll extend that, set it below the window. But even then, your squeegee, it's still got water on it, and you have to be so careful pulling that squeegee off the glass. Yeah. So why should more people be using indoor pure water?
Well, the number one reason is safety. It's way safer than taking ladders. Anytime you take ladders into somebody's home, you are putting the liability just goes way up on your end. There's no doubt. I mean, even the best of the best are going to make mistakes, even if and it's just not worth the risk, in my opinion, when it can be done, and it may even take longer. I know there's people with stacked ladders and go in and knock out the inside just much quicker than we can with indoor water-fed pole, but it's a safety thing to me. That's the number one. And then the other is, like for me, those years in Myrtle Beach, that company was pretty large, and I was responsible for making sure all the jobs got done. So not only was I having to do the work, but I was having to hire and train employees. And that area, because it's tourist area, getting help was really, really challenging. So I was hiring and training almost weekly, you know, because people just, it's hard for people to work when everybody else is on vacation.
Right.
So, and so I found that the average person, remember, I'm saying average, the average person, it took really about 6 months for them to get proficient with a mop and a squeegee, especially on a pole. So if you take an employee and send them inside a house, either with a pole to mop and squeegee or ladders, you know, to work with ladders in the house, it's just real risky. But like for me personally, my employees, they don't use mops and squeegees. They use water fed inside and out.
Wow.
We're using the Stingray. We've got the Cleano, and we've got the Speed Clean. Like I said, the Speedo we use, the Speed Clean kit we use about as much as any of them.
Wow.
You know, it really works.
Did you have to kind of train your market? I don't want to change the subject too much, but
Yeah.
as far as like customer expectations,
Yeah.
did you have to kind of train your market since you use it?
Well, you know, it's interesting. We did occasionally, we would, like, I can tell you, there were a few people, like I had one guy lost one account. He said, he reported, he was a manager, he reported to the corporate, and the letter I got was that they were using a Swifter to clean the windows on the inside. Of course, I followed up with a letter. I sent him a lot of information, told him how professional Unger was and their equipment, and the cost was way more than a Swifter. But most of them really, especially the residential customers, were really glad that we weren't bringing ladders in their house, you know, and that we weren't risking, you know, dripping. We weren't having to put down tons of floor covering, you know, everywhere.
Right.
And you don't have to move nearly as much stuff when you're using the indoor because it swivels, so you can reach around and behind with a pole and get angles that you normally would have to move all the furniture away from the windows to get to.
Would you say that your results using indoor pure water, does it work better on smaller panes of glass, or let's say huge picture windows? Because I was just thinking of an account that I did right before the holidays. It was in this great room where everybody sat, and they had this large wall of glass, and they were all like 8x8, you know, windows going across the wall. Do you still use? I'm assuming you're going to say yes, but how does the quality work on large panes of glass? Because I can imagine lint marks on these large panes of glass if you're starting and stopping. How do you work with large panes of glass in indoor residential?
Same way. I think the smaller ones are harder to do. To us, we found that it was hard to get the corners. We use the thicker pad because it gets, you know, longer fibers, it gets in the corners better. But the smaller glass, it was harder to get in the corners. But on the big glass, we still use it too. Yeah.
Wow. Do you have problems with lint marks?
Not necessarily. Usually if you're leaving lint, it's because the microfiber needs to be changed. It's starting to release back onto the surface.
Okay.
So you just change the pad. And the hazing is still a problem. We still have to, you know, some windows haze more than others. We still have to go back and polish more. Also, another thing I didn't mention is the Zero bronze wool pad fits right onto either the Cleano pad holder or the Unger. And a lot of times we will get the haze off with that dry. We just buff it out with bronze wool.
That's a good tip.
And that works good.
Okay. So as far as why more people should be using it, it's safer.
Yeah.
And there's less of a risk of damaging somebody's property.
Yeah. And training. It takes a long time to train someone that you would feel comfortable sending them into a customer's home with stack ladders and mop and bucket on a belt or whatever, and not. I've had to buy, over my years of business, I've got a silk Oriental rug that I had to buy. We dripped on it, and it was one of those ones that the colors just ran where it dripped. The guy got it appraised, and I basically tried to have it professionally. You know, it was appraised by the same people that clean them, and he said, you can't really fix it. So I had to buy it. Painted so many drywalls, touch up where we dripped, the drip.
Yeah.
Had to have a Haitian cotton couch cleaned one time. His employee dripped on it from up top. And that has to be cleaned like a special way. It costs a fortune to get it cleaned.
Yeah, I know.
It's a lot of liability when you send somebody into people's houses with water.
Damaging their drywall, putting ladders up against it.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of things.
Yeah, but you can't really, with these indoor systems, they don't really drip. You know, sure, you could do damage with the pole or whatever. You have to be careful with that aspect of it.
So how do you manage? So obviously I've just barely dipped my toes in the indoor pure water systems. But I know there's going to be a lot of people who it'll be hard for them to get into it or even try it because their own expectations, they want to deliver a high quality product, clean windows. And if it's not clean in their eyes, they don't feel like they can justify selling their service to somebody. So how would you recommend someone that hasn't gotten into indoor pure water cleaning manage their own expectations?
Yeah, I think they have to, I would say, do your own windows. I always tell people when they buy this equipment, become very comfortable with it, committed yourself. Like I train a lot of people in water fed pole, you know, startups. And I tell them from the get-go, this, anytime you switch, if you've been traditional window cleaning, it's totally different. You have to become convinced yourself that it works. If you're not, then you're not going to be able to sell it. It's going to come across that way. So I tell them, use it at home, do your neighbors, do your friends, relatives' windows for free. Get comfortable with it. So many times people will buy this equipment and the first time they use it is when they show up on a job, which is, look, that's a disaster waiting to happen. So get the equipment. Like I said, you can start out with the speed clean kit for like $130. Do your own windows, get comfortable. I learned over a long period of time that it does work. You just have to keep at it, you know. And so I think that came across to the customers, you know, when they would ask, oh, you've got a new tool here. And then I would really stress the safety features. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna have to bring the ladders in here anymore. We're not gonna have to set up the ladders in your house. We're not gonna have to lean them up against the wall. You know, I'm a homeowner, you are too. Your home is sort of something that you're protective of, I guess. Yeah. So when someone comes in, invades that territory and you're not sure about it, you know, you're going to be uncomfortable. So I think I could tell the customers were more comfortable doing it this way. And, you know, it would always, you know, I tell you, I sold more of them to the customers. I sold tons of speed clean kits to customers and man, I need one of those to do in between. Not that they weren't going to have us. They said, I can keep up with the doors, you know, the things.
Yeah, there's somebody into the flow, and I believe he sets his customer up for in between cleans, the regular staff. He sells them basically the IPC Cleano, and they love him for it because he's doing them a valuable service because he sells his service, but he's like, hey, this is the product that I use, and they love it.
Yeah, because customers are going to do their own doors, you know, they're going to do their own windows. So why not, you know, make it easier for them? Plus it's better for you than if they sit there and spray it. ton of Windex on the window, and then you go back to clean it, you're just cleaning all that buildup.
So even ground level indoor window cleaning, you're still
Yeah.
not using mop and squeegee. You're still
No.
using.
Still
So,
using, yeah.
so let's say they have a dog, and from the ground to 3 foot up, there's just slobber all over the glass.
Yeah.
What do you do with your speed clean kit? How do you tackle that?
It takes more time. You have to spend more time with the thicker pad, maybe a little more alcohol,
Hmm.
in pure water, maybe beef up the alcohol in those areas, but it gets it off.
Do you use like a handheld pad,
I don't. We use the Speed Clean kit comes with a
little
little
tiny
short.
pole?
Yeah, we use that. Yeah.
Okay,
And
I
then
like
the
that
good thing
too.
about when you buy the Speed Clean kit, you get an attachment that'll go on to any water fed pole. So like in your case, if you didn't have a lift and you had to reach those high up windows, you could attach the Speed Clean kit to the top of your water fed pole. And I've done that plenty of times before I had the Stingray
Hmm.
in the IPC. So it definitely is nice. Yeah.
What's as far as a mark of success and being able to use the tool, what's the largest account that you've had success using indoor pure water cleaning?
Yeah, we do, like I told you, we do Class A properties. I've got some that have entranceways with staircases that you really couldn't get a ladder to. So we've stood on the staircases, on balconies, and reached from the ground. Those are 3 stories of wall glass,
Wow,
in the entranceways. Yeah,
cool. So
yeah,
it works.
yeah, it works.
So as far as the hazing goes, just to kind of reiterate that, from our conversation, my understanding is you're either using too much water, too much solution, or your pad is dirty,
Yeah,
and that's basically it. So you want to avoid it, you want to use as little water as possible.
yeah,
And if you're still having hazing, a trick that you can use is either attach a magic eraser or get a bronze wool pad and buff it out that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Okay.
And this is interesting. I saw them somewhere. I don't know if they still have Magic Eraser. Um, is now making a mop. It's an
Really?
actual, yeah, mop, and so you can do the old rubber bands on that too.
Cool.
But the bronze wool is great also for getting the haze off.
Right.
Just
Cool.
dry it. Just it's a good polisher.
Yeah. Is there, as far as the magic erasers go, there's off-brand magic erasers and then there's,
Yeah,
magic eraser.
yeah.
What's the difference between the two products? Does one of them have chemicals or cleaning agents built into it and the other one doesn't?
There are some magic erasers that do come with the soap already in it. I always have gone with the Mr. Clean, the original
Right.
magic erasers, but
Right.
it's just pumice stone really, and however they make it into that square sponge.
So it doesn't matter which one you use, but you prefer the original.
Mr. Clean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Well, that was something I wanted to touch on with you because I had some questions about it myself because I
Yeah,
know that there's application for it, but I just felt uncomfortable
right.
using it. And really,
Yeah,
you're right. You should use it at your own house before you
you should.
go out
Well,
and
you know that because you water fed poles, so you remember when you first got into it, when you transition, you're so used to with mop and squeegee, you're so used to seeing soap, you're so used to seeing the soap come off, relate that to the window cleaning. But this is an analogy I always use when someone's first coming from transition, from traditional window cleaning to water fed. With a mop and a squeegee, the mop is microfiber. So it's designed to lift the dirt off the surface and pull it off. But it also, when you use a surfactant, it helps that dirt lift and suspend.
spins it.
Yeah, suspends it. Then you take a squeegee and you remove it off the surface. So as long as you get all the dirt off the surface, you have clean window. With a water-fed pole, there's no surfactant. The surfactant is the pure water. The pure water is designed for the dirt to attach to the water.
Hungry water.
So, yeah, to the pure water. It's the simple science of everything likes to go back to its original state. So you're taking water with minerals, you're ripping the minerals out of it. So that water wants to go back to water with minerals. So the minerals become attached to it. It can grab minerals out of the air. It's aggressive. So the surfactant is the pure water. The mop is the brush. The brush is designed to lift the dirt off the surface, and then the pure water is the squeegee. So long as you get all the dirt off the glass, you have a clean
Basically,
window.
the processes of cleaning are all the same.
Yeah,
You just have to understand the principle behind all of it.
absolutely. That's exactly right. Yeah. And so what I've seen over like my years of starting out with the aluminum tucker pole, which at that time we had the very first ones, which had the nylon brushes, and then they had the jets had the water with the silicone soap in it. The silicones were designed to make the surface slick, where the water wouldn't bead up. And then over the top, it had the water rinsing. There was no pure water in it. You were just using the silicones to slick it up, and then you're rinsing it off, and then you were hoping that no water would puddle. If it puddled, it would leave a spot. You'd have to go back and go over that again. I don't remember there being as much hydrophobic glass as there is now. There probably was, just wasn't aware of it. So then later on, Tucker started introducing DI tanks to the industry. And so that was a game changer. Once we started figuring out how filtered water worked, we're starting getting way more success rate with the Tucker system.
So the first iteration of water-fed pole wasn't even pure water; it was silicone water, and
basically they had
sheet off and not leave any water behind.
Exactly. It was the design of the tablets. They were, silic was to make the glass slick, where the water wouldn't puddle. Then later on, we discovered, I don't know. I'm sure somebody out there knows who started first using pure water, with water-fed pole. But I remember Tucker started introducing DI tanks, using DI tanks. And then from there, it's just gone bonkers. You had the Europeans introducing, the water-fed poles. The first company that I remember being introduced to the window cleaning industry with reverse osmosis. I don't know if they were working with Itori or if who they were working with that time. They started bringing in the first reverse osmosis systems, and their main customers were carpet cleaners, because at that time carpet cleaners were using pure water because it was better for cleaning the carpet. They would pre-spray the carpets and then rinse with pure water. It left way less dander in the carpet. So people that had allergies, it was a great fix. And so they started coming to the window cleaning industry and selling their systems. Then from there, it's just everybody, Itori, Unger, IPC, all started making pure water systems. And of course, it's where it's at now. I have customers all the time, so I'm confused. I've watched so many videos and I just need help. I don't know which one to get. There's just so many.
I'd love to have another conversation with you sometime about carded systems and multi-stage systems versus van mounted systems, which is something I think you and I both have, which I actually want to get a mobile system, but we can save that for another time.
Yeah.
So you have a pretty good finger on the pulse of the industry because you actually work with a supply company. So
Yes.
you get to see a lot of the different tools coming in.
Yeah.
And it seems like a brand that the supply company you work with is always like in touch with is Zero.
Yeah.
So do they have any products coming out that maybe we don't know about, or can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I will throw this in there. There is, if you're interested in winning a free pole right now, you can win a free 30-foot Zero pole. Just have to go on and register for sure. That's going to be given out sometime in February 15th, I think, is when they're going to give that one away. But yes, the newest products that Zero's come out with, the Zero Pure is their RODI portable system. I was a part of the beginning stages of that when it was the Wash It Pro, and still have the original prototype. And then it of course evolved into what it is today, the Zero Pure system, which is a great system, you know, portable, lightweight, dummy proof, you know, doesn't have all the gauges and pumps and flushing. You just basically plug it into this system
You
that
can give it
goes.
to your crew and just say,
Yeah. Say all you got to do, guys, is plug it in and use it. That's all you got to do, and test the water periodically and keep those filters, you know, changed to regular. And then also they did come out because the demand, as you well know, is for more water with
more volume,
non-pump systems. People wanted more water, you know,
right,
which goes back to the Tucker days. The Europeans use less than a half a gallon a minute. You know, they have a water shortage basically when they're working. They don't have water like we do everywhere. So they're successfully cleaning windows, water-fed pole windows, with less than a half a gallon a minute, which when we were designing the Wash It Pro, Zero Pure, we designed it to do that, to produce a little less than half a gallon a minute, you know, based on tap pressure. The demand for having more water led to coming up with the Zero X2, which basically produces double the amount of water. Okay. That's a new
advantage of that is you get a better rinse. Is that correct?
Not really, because, and people will debate this. The people like me, the old school that came from the Tuckers, where you basically were using a gallon or gallon and a half a minute to wash windows, have a hard time realizing that you can do the same thing with a half a gallon a minute or less, you know, coming out of the brush. But yeah, those ones want more water. So the X2 offered that. Also, it offered if you wanted to run more than one pole. So each pole could have a half a gallon. So, and then their newest product is called the Junior, the Zero Junior. Basically, all it is a Zero Pure in a half the size. So if people that are working out of their car, or they're working out of a pickup with a camper back top, it will fit in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the same as a Zero Pure, but a Junior, smaller.
Is it a RO system, or is it a
Yes, the
RDI?
same. They just took the 40-inch RO membrane and cut it in half. So you basically have two smaller membranes, and you have the same pre-filter, but the DI is smaller. Like most all of the other systems out there have the smaller DIs, because you don't really need the bigger DI, or you can opt to get the bigger DI. The good thing about having the bigger DI, and part of the design we went with that, with the Zero, was if you didn't have a pump and you did not have enough water pressure to run it through the ROs, you could just run it through the DI, and there was enough DI there to get you through the job.
Right.
Yeah. So that was
the RO needs the pressure.
It needs it. Yeah, it needs more water pressure. The DI doesn't. You know, it doesn't.
Like 80 to 100 psi for the RO.
No, actually, the ROs that are out there now can work off 40 psi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're really interesting. They've really done a major advancements for window cleaning, because most of your homes, because of the faucets and the toilets and all there, they can't really handle more than 40, 50 psi. So they set the house from the city water, they set the pressure to about 40 or 50. So these membranes can produce close to half a gallon a minute off of just that low pressure.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
That's cool. Yeah. And if they can't, if you don't have enough pressure, you just run it through the DI only. Get you through that job.
Yeah. Well, really appreciated our conversation, John.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
talked about a whole bunch of stuff from your beginnings in Massachusetts, where you are now. Talked a whole lot about indoor pure water cleaning.
Good.
That's okay. A little bit about some new products coming out. So I feel like it's a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did want to mention to anybody out there, if you know, and Joel can attribute, if you need help at all with setup or questions or troubleshooting, if you want to set up a system or you're thinking of switching over, do not hesitate to call me. That's basically what I do now, is counseling. I just call myself sort of a counselor. It's my way of getting, really, I do get paid, you know. WCR is fantastic to work with. They've been fantastic to me. But I really like helping people, get into this, to figure out how to do the van mount systems, how to do the water fed, and be successful, with it.
And that's part of what Into the Flow likes to do as well. Is there's so much information out there, but there's so much of it is bad information. And so we're trying to help direct people to answers that work for them, but in a way that's approachable with as little, there's some criticization that's not helpful. So we try and give people answers in an approachable way.
Yeah, it's good, which we need to, because when I got into this, there was no computers, there was no internet. And I always felt like I was alone out there figuring things out, trial and error. Later on, the first, forums came out, which were all email, sort of a Yahoo email group. And I just loved it when I could actually talk to these other people that were doing this and figured stuff out. So now
I always talk about my dad. That's one of the things that was his kind of mission for a while, was helping other window cleaners connect to each other so we could share our information.
Yes, absolutely. It's great. Our community is very rare that you have that. And I've even heard that from Unger, which is probably the largest janitorial supplier. They're huge. And they've said that y'all's industry is so, how do you put it? So tight knit. So such a small community, but such good, resourceful, and helping out one another. He said it's not that way in the janitorial.
It's pretty awesome. We're such a niche industry that everybody has such a similar experience, but it's so different from most of the other industries out there that it's just something that we can relate to when we talk to each other. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
Well, John, thank you for joining us today on the Flowcast. Thank you for all your good insights, sharing your experience.
Good.
Joel all
right, look forward to talking to you soon.
Yes, sir. All right, this is Joel with the Into the Flow podcast. Flowcast signing out.